Hey you guys, Mike here at Royal Productions. Today is the 10th of February 2017 and welcome to Beginner Series Video 4, in which we're going to be looking at audio interfaces. I'm going to kind of answer some common questions that comes to most people's minds when they come to buy an audio interface. We're going to be talking about some notable manufacturers, and then we're basically going to jump onto the web and take a look at some of them which are available, talk about pricing and kind of what you might use them for. If you're wondering, this is kind of what this is a selection of what some audio interfaces look like. An audio interface is essentially it's a outboard hardware bit of device, a physical device which lives outside your computer, and you use it to essentially process your recordings and process your sound. So now you've got your computer, you've got your DAW, you're going to need one of these because you're kind of halted. This is what, if you want to plug in any kind of studio grade headphones or studio grade speakers, you need one of these bad boys to process your sound out of the computer and out into your listening device. And if you're recording any kind of vocals, guitars, basses, violins, whatever it may be, you need one of these to basically record your audio, process the sound from analog to digital, so that it can go into the computer and be recorded into your chosen DAW. So which one you need is kind of that depends on what you're doing. So if you're just if you're kind of just need one or two inputs, one or two microphones, say you're just recording some guitars, you perhaps want some stereo mics, so you need two inputs. Or if you're a solo violinist or you're a vocalist, you probably don't really need much more than two inputs. If you're going out there and recording bands, you're going to need perhaps up to 16 inputs, especially if you're recording drum kits, things like that, or orchestral sessions. You're going to need a lot of inputs. I mean, orchestral sessions, you're going to have to go to a proper studio, pretty much. Or even if you're just kind of using samples in the box, and you're not really at this point too bothered about external recordings. You've got your libraries, which we're going to come onto in a later video as well. You're still going to need an audio interface because that's how you connect your computer up. How much you spend, again, is completely up to you. There's no real right or wrong, but I always say try not to buy too cheap with any of this stuff. I'd go around about 170 mark. There are interfaces out there for about 70 quid, which will be fine. But just try and get especially if you're going to be recording, your last thing you want is a bad quality recording. Which leads me nicely on to this one, sample rates and bit depths, which is basically a bit of maths. You're going to see this listed on pretty much all the interfaces you look at, so I don't want to go too much into it because we literally will be starting a maths lesson. But essentially what sample rate means is, if you picture almost like you might come across this if you've done any work with cameras, for instance, where you've got like frames per second, or video games. How many FPS you've got. Well, sample rates is kind of how many snapshots of audio can be taken per second. So 44.1 means around about 44,000 samples of audio has come into your interface. So the higher the rate, the sample rate, essentially that's a higher resolution of sound. The computer's capturing more samples per second. Bit depth is about binary code in the computer when we go from analog to digital. So it's how many bits. Computers operate in noughts and ones. So if you think of it almost as a light switch going on and off, the higher the bit depth, so 16 and 24 are kind of standard now, but the higher the bit depth is kind of almost how many times is the computer actually saving a bit of information. You could think of it like that. So if you're recording at, say, 2448, that means that you're taking a much higher resolution of a recording. It comes down to decibels as well. So if you're recording at 24-bit, essentially you're recording, I believe, about 144 decibels of sound, which means you're capturing a higher dynamic range. If someone's literally like whispering, or someone shouting, the separation between those is going to be huge because you've got much more frequencies per second that it's recording. When we go down to CD and you master it, it'll be dithered down or compressed down to 44.1 16-bit. Essentially, it's a size thing. It gets you about 70 minutes capacity on a CD. Films are higher because of Blu-ray and whatever else, and obviously the audio world's changing. We don't, a lot of stuff's going out digitally now. I personally have never put a CD out myself since back in the band days. But yeah, films, when they hit the cinema, they're going to be 48/24 minimum because the dynamic range is just huge. I don't know if you noticed that if you really pay attention to film soundscapes, the separation between the really quiet sounds and the loud sounds is like huge. So 16-bit gives you about 96 decibels, which is enough to capture the audible human range of hearing. So for headphones, speakers, that's fine. 24-bit is going to capture 144 decibels of dynamic range, which is perhaps why, you know, when you're in a cinema, you can feel more. You know, if a big boom or an explosion happens, that's the frequency you're feeling more than you're actually hearing. I hope that's made sense. Please let me know if it doesn't, and I'll do a more detailed video. But essentially, your audio, when you look at your audio interface, it's going to talk about, oh, can record, you know, between 44.1 and even up to 192, which is huge and unnecessary in my opinion. And I can do 16-bit and 24-bit. So when you're recording your guitar, you probably want to be recording in 24-bit 48, for instance, as your sample rate and your bit rate. But then when you come to actually bounce your track down once it's mixed, it's going to be a lot less. Right. Enough of mathematics and stuff like that. Bear with me, guys. So, notable manufacturers, you got, you know, Behringer, Focusrite, RME, Universal Audio, Apogee, Avid, Native Instruments, MOTU, and Presonus. Those are the ones that I've listed. There are many, many more. It's worth noting that obviously Presonus, they make the Studio One DAW, MOTU make the Digital Performer DAW, Avid make Pro Tools. So these guys know... They know their sound and they know what's going on, but you could say they're a bit multifaceted, whereas a company, say, like Universal Audio or Apogee are focusing just, or even Mackie, which should be on this list. I'm sorry, Mackie. Mackie as well. I use a Mackie desk. You know, they're focusing on kind of just the hardware and the processes themselves. It's worth noting as well that these two boys, the Universal Audio and the Apogee, are pretty much Mac only. You will see that listed. They use Thunderbolt connectors, which annoys me because I don't have Thunderbolt in my Mac, so I can't use them. But yeah, they'll be kind of you know, Apple based only, really. I think they're starting to branch out Universal Audio a little bit, but Apogee is definitely a Mac only thing at the moment. So, where to buy? I pretty much get everything from DV247. Anderton's is a good place as well. So I'm going to take you over to DV247 now, and we're going to talk about, I think I've got probably around 6 to go through, maybe 7, that I want to talk to you guys. So this is starting off with the Universal Audio Apollo Twin Duo audio interface, which I've got my eye on because it's nice and compact. You know, it's got enough inputs for what I currently need. And the quality of it is just outstanding. So for those of you who haven't seen, I did do a studio tour video around a year ago. I use a Mackie Onyx 1620i, which is now, they don't make anymore. And it's basically a desk. It's an 8-input desk, which, to be honest with you, right now I don't need. If anything, I'm trying to scale down my studio, not this massive great room of stuff. So for what I'm currently doing, that would suit me fine because it gives me... I can plug in a guitar to the front should I want to. I can plug in headphones. I've got a big knob there for in terms of setting my sound. I've got plenty of I'd have plenty of kind of lights and colours telling me what's going on. On the back, I can send out my monitors via a 3/4-inch jack. And we've also got mic lines on the back here, so 2 mics. The only thing that stops me getting it is this Thunderbolt, which, just like I say, I haven't got that interface on my Mac currently. Optical in is talking about DAT, or ADAT, you know, which releases digital audio tape, which is going back in the day. I don't think many of you guys are going to use that, but if you have got an old 8-track or something that uses ADAT, you can connect that into this to then subsequently go through the analog to digital process and record it into your DAW. So this is starting at £599. You know, again, Mac only. You've got to look out for this. If you've bought a PC, guys, this isn't for you. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, Thunderbolt cable not included. Brilliant. But yeah, you've got basically a lot of these companies are doing this. You've got the same power and the quality of the, say, the Apollo Quads or the Apollo 16s. These are the big boy, really expensive $2 odd grand interfaces that they do. And those are the ones, like I was talking about, where you can use plugins in the computer that will be, the hardware is basically side of it. All the conversions are done in the actual interface, not in your computer, so great for saving CPU. So that's like, I would say, if you've just bought a brand new MacBook or a brand new something like on that you want something nice to sit on your desk, you've got Thunderbolt. This is pretty cool. It's going to give you a seriously good resolution to record in. The converters are going to be great, and you're going to really hear, you know, your latency is basically going to be none. So yeah, two dedicated buttons for monitor selection and microphone input select. So that's cool as well. That means you can basically alternate your outputs in terms of where you listen and whatever else. Going on to this one, this is a little bit more bad boy now. As you can see here, we're going up to £2,600. This is almost like a rack unit here. 8 inputs, and this is where the processing comes in terms of using the plugins. So it's outboard digital signal processing basically. So when you add, say, a compressor in your DAW, instead of your processor on your computer doing that work and kind of again using binary code to work out algorithms of how that's going to work, this work is done within this box. So that's awesome basically. 8 mic inputs, you know, ADAT stereo lines. You've got 2 different monitor outputs, which means you can essentially plug in different types of speaker. No, you got 6, so you could actually output 6 different speakers if you wanted to. So say you see those studios with mounds and mounds of speakers around it set up in different locations. You know, this can help you essentially output that, so you can hear your mixes on different speaker combinations. And this starts to get, and you would be able to do surround sound mixing with this as well, because you've just got the capability to plug in, you know, your 6 speakers. So, you know, your 5 center, rear, front left, front right, rear left, rear right, and a sub, which I'd love to get into, but I am not at that place just yet. And here we go. Sample rate is up to 192 24-bit word lengths, so that's going to be ridiculous. I think 192 is just unnecessary, but some people out there will disagree with me, and that is fine. Next generation Apollo AD DA converters. So that's talking about, when I keep talking about analog to digital and digital to analog, that's what that's talking about. So analog to digital, aka I sing or play a guitar. The audio interface converts that data into digital, goes through the Thunderbolt cable, is recorded into the DAW, and D to A, digital to analog, is the other way around, coming out of your computer back to your speakers, and that's universal to everything. Moving on again, we're going to get all the Mac side stuff out the way first. So now we're talking about Apogee, who make things essentially pretty much for you know, Mac and iPad. You know, you can use this on an iPad, which is again crazy. Looks really nice. I believe this one as well. This is another one I would look at personally, but again, that Thunderbolt part is letting me down because I don't have it. So yeah, you've got here 3 different speaker outputs. So again, you can go to 3 different sets of speakers. You're going to get the Apogee DA AD DA converters. So again, world class. You've got 4 inputs, world class mic preamp. So your mic preamp is basically what, when you plug in a microphone, you need something to amplify your signal. So that's what a preamp is. It amplifies the level coming into the interface. So with this mic, for instance, I've had to turn a knob to say I want you to record this much sound, so it's not peaking or distorting. These ones as well can also deal, by the looks of it, with surround sound. So if there's something you want to get into in the future, you know, 3 sets of monitors, or configure a single 5.1 system with built-in monitor controller. That's seriously cool. You know, that's going to then give you the option in your DAW to route sound out to various different outputs, so you can basically get your 5.1 outputs. So that's another cool one. I like, again, Apogee. Right, now we're going to be moving on to Presonus. So once again, these are the guys who make Studio One. So we're getting into, obviously I've been talking about DAWs here starting at 599 and, you know, 1,300 and 2,600. This one's coming in at £73. You know, like I was talking about in the beginning of this video, we've got 24-bit 44.1. So that's what it can basically record in. So that means that 44,000 samples or you know, per second, and you're going to be recording in that high decibel frequency. So you're going to get, you know, good quality recordings. 48 volts phantom power. That's basically relating to condenser microphones, which require power. I will talk about that in one of the next videos where we're starting to talk about microphones. This one works via USB. It says powered. So that means that essentially you don't need to plug this into the wall. It will take the power from the computer. There are various twos, you know, there are good things about that and bad things about that, basically. Personally, I tried to get one that's powered outside the computer because I want to keep as much electricity in my computer as possible, but that's me. I had a little bit of problems with one of my first boxes I got years ago because of that reason, things cutting in and out, but I think that was down to the computer I was using at the time more than the interface. So this, you got two A-class preamps. You can deal with 48 volts. This phantom power 48 volts, by the way, I'd be very surprised if that's not on a audio interface these days. It would amaze me if there's an audio interface out there that can't deal with condenser microphones. But, you know, if you see it listed there, it's just a tick box that's there. You know it's got it. You're going to feel happy moving forward. So this is starting from £73, you know, Mac or PC. You can plug in 2 instruments. There's your 48 volts button for phantom power. Here's your kind of, when it's talking about preamps, this is where you gain the amount of signal from, you know, the lowest point to the highest point. Clip here is just a visual indicator that you're distorting and you need to turn it down. If that ever goes red, you've got problems. You know, mixer, this is basically how much is going to your computer, essentially. So yeah, you probably want that as high as possible. Phones, headphone volume, main, speaker volume. While I'm on that as well, obviously I'll go into that in more depth later on, but you want these two pretty much the same. You know, if you go to a headphone mix, you don't want your headphones to be turned up way more than your speakers, and you think, oh wow, this mix is really loud, when it's actually not. You've just gained it more on your interface. So yeah, this is kind of like as simple as you're going to go. USB, main outs via 3/4 inch jack. Some of these you'll see an XLR on as well, to go to XLR. My speakers, my KRKs can take both 3/4 inch jack and XLRs. So, you know, reviews as well. Look at reviews. Got one review who's got a high review. This person's saying top notch. I've used it for many years. That's exactly what I need. Great mini studio setup. Sounds great. Fine. You know, no problem. This is awesome. I really like the Mackie Onyx preamps. So when we're talking about Onyx Blackjack here, this basically is using the same preamps, these two things here, that I've got in my desk. I can vouch for them. I think they're great. Again, you've got balanced or unbalanced monitor outs left and right via 3/4 inch jack. So that's to go to speakers. This one here to headphones. Then you've got the same setup. Most of the setup's going to be exactly the same. Gain of your preamp on both these signals. How much to the monitor, how much to the computer, how much to the monitors, how much to the phones. Again, same thing. And again through USB. So that's kind of like, if you want a really simple interface that looks great, is sturdy, I'd go with this guy, £98. You know, they're some good reviews again. 24-bit again, so you can go up to the high end. Built-in DI. DI means direct input, and that's for things like bass guitars, or if you want to just plug a guitar into the computer and then use like a pedal board, like a virtual pedal board in Logic, for instance, where you don't want to use a microphone. Great for if you're up late at night and you've got neighbours or a family or a girlfriend that will shout at you for making too much noise. 48 volts again for condenser microphones. USB powered, so no extra cables. You know, yeah, it's got everything that you want in there. Compatible with most major DAWs, Logic, Sonar, Cubase, Ableton Live, Final Cut Pro, which is video editing software and more. So yeah, that's a good solid. Personally, I'd go with this over that. Personally, just I know Mackie have been around a little longer, and I suppose I'm biased because I've used the Onyx preamps. These guys here, I know what they're like, so I trust it. Native Instruments. So this is a very sexy looking interface. I love the design of it and the colours. You know, great colour representation of what's happening, where you're monitoring, where your outputs are going. 48 volts here. I think that's pretty much done automatically on this box. I think it can detect whether you're using a condenser microphone or not. I could be wrong, but I can't see any buttons to actually activate. Oh no, there it is, 48 volts. So yeah, you still got to turn it on. This guy here, you've got your outs again via 3/4 inch jack, which seems to be very popular. Again, 2 microphone inputs and 2 DIs. So if you wanted to plug in 2 guitars or 2 basses, you could do that. £179. I believe they are chucking in some software, so you get complete elements, which is great because that gives you basically contact. Cubase LE6 and Tractor LE2. So if you're getting into DJing, Tractor's cool, Cubase is Cubase. So yeah, if you buy this one and you've been curious about using Cubase, you've got that option there straight away. Low latency, of course. Most of these should be low latency. The last thing you want is to play a note and it's recording half a second away, you know, out of time. And yeah, that's one thing that stands out to me is great LED feedback for what the hell's going on, which is useful if you're playing, you see a red light flashing, you think, oh Christ, I'm distorting, I'm peaking, I need to turn it down a little bit. It helps you out. This one doesn't look like it has spoken about sample rates and bit rates, but you know, I really wouldn't worry about it too much. It's made by Native Instruments, again, a very reputable company, you know what they're doing, so it's going to be fine. So that one, again, I would recommend if you want something that looks quite nice on your desk, if you've got that aesthetic approach, you want something, you know, I have definitely got that, then I go for that. And then we're leading up to some of the bigger boys. So where I mentioned that if you were going to be recording bands, here we're looking at a Presonus solution. This one here, you've got, you know, you've got 2 instrument lines, so that's DI, so you can plug in 2 bass guitars or 2 guitars without using microphones. Again, you're going to have to use some sort of after in the box modulation, like Logic's pedal board. But you've got 8 mic preamps, so you could have, you know, kick, snare below, snare on top. You could have then, say, tom, and, you know, overheads. So you can record a drum kit pretty much with this. Yeah, so you'd have to obviously overdub. You've not got any more than 8. So if you want to record a guitarist to sing and a bassist at the same time as the drums, you're going to run into trouble. But all your pre's on the front here, all your levels of gain. Is it giving me a rear picture? I'm not too sure that it does. Nope. Oh, here we go. So yeah, then we've got USB 2 out, ADAT again if you've got any sort of like old tape machines, your main out left and right, and then line outputs. So that's for going to external compressors and things like that you can do as well. So this is more aimed. This is more going to be aimed at kind of recording groups of you know, a group or more, you know, more than 2 inputs to your computer. You know, so that's kind of almost like my crash course into it, if you like. I hope this is useful to a point. This is a very big subject, and there's so many questions surrounding it, and people unsure of things. You know, please get involved, start commenting below. You know, I hope we can get some conversation. I'd be interested to know what you're looking at getting. I'm looking to upgrade myself, but I need to upgrade my Mac before I can actually go ahead and do that. If you want to look at what's around, if you go onto DV247, for instance, computer music, audio interfaces, you can choose to do, I mean, some of these even go by sound card actually into the computer, which is, you know, pretty amazing, but you're still then going to need a counterpart to plug in a mixer into it. So even though you've got your sound card, say for Universal Audio, you're still going to need the interface as well. Pro Tools HD systems also have this. They've got a lot of an actual sound card that goes into the PC or the Mac, and then you've got a desk in that case normally to go through. But anyway, if you click audio interfaces, it's going to give you an entire run through of basically a whole bunch of products. You know, Avid as well, they make some good ones. 500 quid here. What's this? The Pro Tools Duet. They should be giving you almost a version of Pro Tools with it. Normally they do that. So yeah. It's a USB interface that includes a Pro Tools software activation card designed for singer-songwriters and loop-based musicians. So it turns your Mac or PC into a powerful music creation and audio recording studio. So, you know, if you want almost like a DAW and audio interface solution, then Avid do give you that. Alongside, I would imagine, if I go back to the list I created for you guys here, these guys as well, Presonus, MOTU, they're going to give you pretty much with their interface, they'll give you some sort of DAW as well. So yeah, have a look around the web, definitely read the reviews. You know, if you go on DV247, have a look at what other people have been saying about that particular interface. Comment below, start conversations, whatever you guys need to do. And I hope, I hope that's been useful, and I haven't kind of thrown you too much talking about these damn sample rates. It does take a while to get your head around, but honestly, don't worry too much about it right at this moment in time. We will talk more about that later. Okay, guys, I will see you in the next video. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you very soon. Cool. Take care. Bye-bye.